Hey, everybody. We are here officially at the halfway mark. Welcome to day 15 of What the WTF, where we have been exploring life kind of post eclipse. I've just been using this most recent eclipse a couple of weeks ago as a marker just for my own, just turning off my phone, making sure we won't get interrupted, just as a marker for my own progress. Hey, Kenny. And I'm just curious, right? Like one of the things that I love, so I'm trying to get my chapstick out here. One of the things that I love is that I have this record, right? This record of my YouTube channel, which I have been documenting videos for over 10 years now, specifically related to my own spiritual awakening, the ensuing like development and expansion and reconnection of my gifts. It's just, hey, Jane, hey, Pixie, hey, Nicole. If you ever were interested and were to watch all of the videos from start to finish, you would see my experience in real time. I mean, for the most part, I have been 100% transparent about my own journey, my own life, my own experience, and I love that it's all documented here. And hey, Demi. So today, as we hit this halfway mark of the 30 days that I committed to showing up for this series, What the WTF, I just love the process of seeing how things unfold. One of the things, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and one of the people in the chat, and I'm sorry your name is escaping me, can't remember his name. I can see maybe it was Brian. I think it was Brian, but I could see his little Flower of Life logo that he has on his channel or his profile here. Anyway, thinking about the idea of the higher self and surrender and all of that, and how I want to make a point here about how we're all connected. I do need to write some notes because the way my brain is rapidly moving lately, like I will forget it in 2 seconds if I don't write it down. But I just love being able to watch in real time this evolution of my own experience, the evolution of your experience. And who knows, maybe someday you'll be able to look back on this 30-day experiment and track your own progress. Yes, thank you, Brian the Bright. My hope is that it will remind you of something, right? It will trigger some sort of remembrance or awakening or reawakening, because you were already awake when you came in, and then you decided to go back to sleep, and then you reawakened. I digress. My point here, I think it's really fascinating just as a document, just to see like what happened when I showed up every day for 30 days, just following my highest excitement, just completely surrendering, completely letting go, completely allowing the destruction and obliteration of my preconceived ideas, of my own limitations, of my own expectations, even of some of my own requirements. And that's, I think, for me, one of the most exciting potentials and possibilities that this experiment holds, is just to see like what happened. And now we have, regardless of what happens, maybe 30 days go by and I still am sitting here in my brother and my sister and brother-in-law's guest room. I don't know, who knows, but that's the exciting part, because it is of no concern to me. I trust spirit and myself implicitly. I don't necessarily trust my human self all of the time. I trust that my human self is always going to try to go for what it thinks it needs. I trust the human self is always going to go scrambling back to history given the choice. And I understand why. I understand the function of the persona. I understand the function of the human personality mind. But what happens when we just say, I don't care, regardless of all of that, regardless of everything, the one thing I am sure of is that I'm showing up every day for 30 days. Exactly. Thriving versus surviving. So, yesterday we talked a lot about surrender. And Brian brought up a very, very, very fabulous question, and one that I think every single human has asked. And if they haven't yet, they probably will. And that is, well, what do you do if you don't like the soul's journey? What do you do if you don't like where you're going, or it scares you, or you're freaked out, or, he just said, what if you do if you don't like it? And I said, well, my answer to him, and it's still the same, was just surrender, because ultimately the reason that your human experience exists is because you chose it from your soul's perspective. So the idea that the human is in charge of the soul, not the way it works. That's like the saying the thumb is in charge of the body. No, the thumb has its needs. And if I smash the thumb with a hammer, suddenly the thumb is the most important part of my body. So the thumb has needs, and it's my job as the entirety of my being to tend to the needs of the thumb. But the thumb is not running the show. The thumb is not in charge. It's the same thing with our human experience. We, as a human expression, as an individuated aspect, not individual, individuated. There's a difference. I have my own thoughts, my own beliefs, my own feelings from my human perspective, and all or none of them are also being shared simultaneously in real time with the expanded self. Here's the thing. You are your higher self, and your higher self is you. You are not separate from the totality of what you are. You just happen to be the portion of you that is visible. It's like the iceberg, right? We've seen that meme a million times, right? This much of the iceberg you see floating above the surface of the water, and then you look at the entirety of the iceberg, and 95% of it is underwater, and the part that's underwater is massive. And the part that we see is minuscule, comparatively speaking. So this, I think, is one of the things that I have found to be the most paradigm shifting in my Hey Vanessa, in my experience. And that is to really fully comprehend, integrate, embody, and realize I am not separate from my higher self in any way, shape, or form. Nor is it separate from me in any way, shape, or form. I am a part of the higher self, just as the thumb is a part of my body. And everything that happens to the thumb is recorded and experienced in some way by the rest of the body. And when the rest of the body says, "Hey, I need the thumb to do this," then that's what the thumb eventually does. So when we talk about surrender, I think it's important to begin to peel apart some definitions, right? If you think of like unraveling yarn, when you have like 3-ply yarn and you just peel each ply apart and you say, okay, what is this comprised of? What are my belief systems made of? And to really understand that when we talk about surrender, it is not losing. Only the ego thinks surrender means I lost. It is not giving up. It is not failure. It is giving in. It is understanding that while you have had the experience of being an autonomous body as your human self, just like the thumb may think, it's just me out here, regardless of what you do or do not know, you are connected to a greater self, a much larger organism, if you will, that you are an integral and necessary and loved and welcomed and chosen part of. So I'm sharing this because I think it's really, really crucial for our own spiritual understanding and to move beyond the idea of something just as a concept and to actually live it, right? That's what embodiment and realization means. Now it's no longer a post-it on the wall that says you are connected to all that is. And I read that and I go, oh, I'm connected to all that is. Yeah, okay, I'm connected to all that is. But if it doesn't live in your body, if it doesn't live in your cells, if it hasn't been realized by you, it's not going to stick, right? It's not going to create a shift. It's going to be temporary. And the way that it's inspiration versus motivation. Motivation is someone else. Motivation is the personal trainer telling you to work harder and do it faster. And motivation works for a time. But motivation, if it does not exist within first, motivation is simply an external voice telling you what to do. But if there is no resonance within, if there's nothing for it to stick to, it's going to be a temporary change. Inspiration is something that comes from within. Inspiration is me telling myself, hey, what about this? That's a different thing than motivation. But you are not separate from any of it. Really, I mean, you're not separate from anything. That's the truth. But that can be a concept that's difficult for the mind to comprehend. But so begin with the fact that what you are, top to bottom, from the lowest part of the chain all the way up to the highest part of the chain. And that's not a judgment. Low doesn't mean bad. High doesn't mean good. It's just a geographical designation. This is lower than that. When you remember and begin to live and realize, oh, I am connected to all that I am. I am the higher self, and the higher self is me. When I changed my name to Amar, Notes from the Higher Self, channeled book by me, from me, for me. Hey, Jane, thank you. When I took the name Amar, I first got that name back in 2015, 2016, when I began to consciously channel the higher self. And I got the name Amar. And I instantaneously knew in that moment, oh, that's the claim that I'm going to make someday. And so claiming the name of Amar was me consciously making the choice to be the embodiment of my higher self in form. The choice to claim Amar as an identity was an invitation for the fullness of myself to descend into the form. Andrew is a part of a much larger experience called Amar. Amar is a part of a much larger experience as we move up the chain. So the choice to choose the name Amar was me saying, okay, this is me stepping forward to make the claim of my expanded self, that's how I move. That's what I am. That's who and what I know myself to be. Andrew is a part of that. Andrew hasn't gone anywhere. I'm not excluding or denying or rejecting Andrew. I'm actually folding him in. I'm calling him home. I'm saying, hey, babe, come over here. This is what you're really a part of. So that was my choice and that was my journey. And you don't have to call yourself anything other than what you call yourself. That's entirely up to you. Like I said yesterday, you can call yourself Bob the Butthole if you want, or your guide's Bob the Butthole. Oh, I love that, Kenny. I'm such a numerology nerd too. So the point here is that when you find yourself believing, and I get it, right? In the beginning, it makes sense from a practical perspective to perceive of the higher self as like out there, right? Up there. Okay, I need to raise my vibration. I need to raise my consciousness. I need to find that clarity so I can connect with myself and then move in and out of those layers of consciousness. So, you begin to believe that it's up there somewhere. And that, I think, is what allows the mind to comprehend the experience, right? Okay, yeah, the mind understands climbing a ladder. The mind understands raising our vibration or our frequency. So we believe, I know, isn't it cool? It's a palindrome day. It's 42424 is the same backwards and forwards. So you begin by believing, okay, I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to raise my vibration so that I can connect up there. The truth is, there is no up there. There is no out there. But it's important, I think, as a mechanism to begin to comprehend that perspective and to begin to embrace it and live with it and eventually integrate it and embody and realize it. But you're not ever disconnected from all that you are. There's no way you could be. If you were in truth disconnected from all that you are, you would cease to be, because nothing can exist without or outside of the field of spirit. So when you are awake and aware and alive and having an experience like, oh, I'm in a body, I'm a human, that shows me, hey, Dan, thank you, friend. That shows me, that's proof that you are connected. And if you weren't connected, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be a part of it, because what you are is eternal. So I just think it's really important as we're talking about these concepts of the higher self, as we're talking about these concepts of connecting with our guides, our helpers, our team, whatever, our angels, it all comes from the same place. It all comes from the same place, and it all returns to the same place. So my point here is to simplify things. In the beginning, I called it Big Andrew. That's when I went by Andrew. Now it's Amar. So Big Amar. Just, okay, big self, the expanded self, the version of me, the layer of me, the part of me that can see from the mountaintop and see the 30,000 foot view perspective. But it's still me. So over time, it naturally evolves into you remembering. You just got to go in here, because this is where the connection is. Those of you who are old enough to remember telephone booths when there were actually phones on the street that you could just walk up to, put a quarter in, and talk on it. It's like that's where you connect. That's where you communicate. It's your internal system. It's in the phone booth is where you go when you need, just like, right? Superman goes into the phone booth to change, right? And then when he comes out of the phone booth, he's Superman. He goes in as Clark Kent, comes out as Superman. It's you. When you go in as your human normie self, your muggle self, and then you go and connect with the magic that you are, then you emerge from the transformation chamber, i.e., the phone booth, as your connected self, as your fully realized self. So even though you have the experience of the one kicking around down here in a body, and sometimes it feels like you are alone and feels like you are solo, but you're just the boots on the ground. You're just the part that said, okay, I'll be the part that has a body and a face and a persona and a personality, and I'll pretend to be an individual human that's separate from all of it. Yeah, that'll be my role. But it's just as an important a part of a role as the one that, this is how I think of it, the one that's sitting up there at the console, right? Like looking at all the screens and the monitors and managing all the selves that the higher self is a part of. So I think it's just really important to remind everyone of that. And if this is new information for you, to begin to digest that and consume that and remind yourself that, oh, okay, I already am connected to that. I've never been separate from that. Just like you are connected to future versions of yourself, right? I have this exercise that I love to share with people. When you're trying to manifest a path forward, you can pick a time, like just imagine, okay, 6 months from now, I'm going to start writing to myself in 6 months from now, like, hey, Amar, what's going on in September, whatever 6 months from now is. Here I am in April, and I'm confused, I'm lost, I'm frustrated, I'm whatever, blah, blah, blah. What can you tell me? And then you turn around and you write a response back from your future self. Oh my God, hey, Amar of the past, I'm so happy you wrote to me of all these exciting things I can't wait to tell you. That's still you. Do you understand that? Even future versions of you are not separate from you. That's like saying who you were at 5 years old is separate from who you are now. No, no. So you're always in a state of becoming that which you already are. The potential for your adult self already existed when you were born, just wasn't the right time for it to happen. Do you think your mom is going to give birth to a 6'2", 215-pound person? No. Thank God for her. So it's all happening now. It's all concurrent. It's all simultaneous. It's all just part of the singular's experience. Again, remember when we were talking about your awareness and you're inside your inner space, and you can choose to look through any multitude of facets of your reality, and that will dictate which version of reality you're looking at. It's the same thing. Spirit itself is in the center of this crystal, and all of us, each individual. And this is just the humans. Okay, so for humans, there's 8 billion facets on the crystal. That doesn't include the animals. That doesn't include the minerals and the plants and the inner earth people and the multidimensional people. And that. So, think of it that way. And that's the only way that spirit can know itself, is through all of these multiple facets. It's the same thing with you. You are in the center. And what you believe about yourself and whatever is active in the moment, is whatever facet you're looking through a lens, and that will create the version of your experience. It's the same thing. So just know that if what you're seeing, what you're currently experiencing as it filters into your awareness, isn't necessarily what you want, then you can begin to adjust the angles, right? Adjust the frequency, adjust the direction, adjust the connection point. Look up, look down, look over, look around, right? Just disconnect from that current version of self and go, okay, I'm gonna go in here, reconnect, reset, and then we'll see what my options are. So I'm sharing this because I think that this can really help with the concept of surrender. Because a lot of time, well, what am I surrendering to? Just yourself. Just yourself. It's just you at a higher level. It's just you that has a different perspective than the one that you currently have access to. It's just you, right? If you were in a 20-story building and you were on the ground floor and someone was living in the penthouse and y'all were best friends and you were texting back and forth about what's happening for you at the ground floor as you look by at all the people walking back and forth, as opposed to on the 20th floor where you're probably not watching people walk back and forth, right? It's the same experience, or you're part of the same experience and same reality. You're just having a very different version of it based upon your point of connection and your point of perspective. So you can be physically located anywhere, and your consciousness can be somewhere else. That is multidimensionality, my friends. We all talk about, oh, my multidimensional aspects. When can I, you start tapping into that now. You can close your eyes and project into the future, project into the past, going, like I was saying, several days ago, physical, mental, emotional, your sight, your smell, your taste, your sound, all of those are different dimensions of experience and awareness. And all of them have their own validity. All of them have their own rules, so to speak. All of them have their own contextual experience, right? When you go into the realm of your scent, it's different than the realm of your sight. The realm of your sight is different than the realm of your hearing, but they're all part of the same experience. It's that thing of, if you had an elephant in the room and you had 20 people all blindfolded and they were in a circle around the elephant, and each of them were touching a different part of the elephant, and the question was, hey, describe the thing that you're touching. And if you have the ear, your explanation of the description is going to be much different than the one who's holding onto the tail, than the nose, than the foot, than the shoulder, right? But they're all part of the elephant. And we become so convinced that our perspective is the only one, that we even convince ourselves that that's the only aspect that we have access to. We even convince ourselves that's the only way it is, that's the only way it can be, but it's just not the truth. In a creative, generative, coherent reality such as the one we live in, like attracts like. You're sticky to what you're sticky to. You're sticky to what you are made of, what you are composed of. And as your composition, i.e. your beliefs, your ideas, your systems of, investment of your resources, time, attention, all of that, as you change, so too does your frequency, does your vibe, but you are still a part of the thing that you have always been a part of, and you always will be. So relax into that. I think that can be a source of great comfort and confidence, that you are held by something that is much larger than you, but that is completely and totally aware of you in every single moment. Yeah, quantum entanglement. This idea of quantum entanglement, if you have two particles and you connect them to one another, they come into contact with one another, and then you separate them. If you stimulate one particle, the other one, even though it is in a room completely on the other side of the laboratory, the other one will still respond as if it is still connected and being stimulated in the same way. So what you're connected to, you're always connected to in some way. You can't not be connected to the thing that you are. So surrender is just inviting more of you to come into the room, more of what you really are. Surrender is just saying, maybe I don't need this. Maybe there is a better way. Maybe my way isn't the best one. Surrender is just allowing curiosity about, well, how else could this happen? How else could I respond? What don't I know here? So allow yourself to understand that surrender is not giving up. Surrender is not losing, and you're not giving anything away. Surrender is spirit's invitation to move on. Surrender is the permission slip to get out of class, right? It's your mom saying, please let Amar go. He has a doctor's appointment, blah, blah, blah. Only Spirit's version is, please let Amar go. This shit doesn't serve him anymore, and he's fucking tired of this. It's time for him to go. That's really what surrender is. It's, oh, I don't have to be here anymore. Oh, I can go now. Right? So when you're sick of the issues, cancel your subscription. Just surrender. Oh, okay, I don't have to be here anymore. Cool. Fuck yeah, what's next? So I just wanted to bring that into the conversation because I think, for myself, especially in the beginning with this ferocious ironclad will that I was born with or born into, it was almost always a battle of wills. It was this ego self that was just like, no, my way is the right way. My way is the true way. My way is the only way. And it was also from a place of fear. That was another thing that I really had to contend with. I wasn't religiously indoctrinated. At least I didn't think I was. We went to church because my parents are musicians. My mom was a choir director. My dad played in the band there at church. So we were there a lot, but we weren't like a fundamentally religious household. It wasn't like crazy religious Christianity happening in my house. We were just, I guess, sort of just your average middle American Christian family. And yet I still, when I was butting up against like these ideas of surrender and allowing and giving in and connecting, it was like, oh my God, is that a demon? Is that the devil? Is that darkness? Is that, so there was still a lot of fear. And so the control, the attempt to control and the attempt to say, no, I'm not doing it that way. It's my way. That was really just a mask for my fear. That was really just a mask for the part of me that didn't understand how anything could possibly be better than the ego, how anything could possibly be more correct or right or accurate than the ego. So I just offer this as a reminder that the ego isn't necessarily going to like stepping down from its post, but it doesn't have to like it because it's not up to the ego. And as you explore this journey of surrender and surrender to surrender, which, by the way, I do have here on my Inner Space Journeys playlist. That was one of the topics that we talked about one Sunday, was surrendering to surrender. You may find that useful. It's a beautiful conversation, channeled information, and then energy work as we danced with the idea of surrender. My point here is, however you come to an understanding and an acceptance of the concept of surrender, good on you, because it's something that you're just going to have to do. You don't get a choice. See, this is the funny part about free will is, yeah, you have free will to do or not do what you're ultimately going to do. So free will is, well, I'm just choosing not to do it now, or I'm just choosing not to do it in this lifetime. It's ultimately going to happen. So free will, yeah, ish, but not free will in the sense that you can force the soul to do something that it doesn't want to or is never going to do. Again, the human exists because the soul chose it, not the other way around. So surrender to surrender now or not, next lifetime or not, tomorrow or not. It's up to you. Just know that it's inevitable. It's inevitable. And I speak from experience. Someone who tried every other door except the door of surrender at least 25 times before it was finally like, oh shit, okay, fine, I'll surrender. So it happens. It happens. How and when? That's up to you. That's up to you. But I'm telling you, it's a losing battle to fight it, to resist it, to say no. It's a fight. It's a losing battle, girl. It's just never gonna, it's always going to happen. It's always going to happen. So I just wanted to offer that today. And that kind of feels like all that really wanted to come through today. So I think we'll just leave it there. But reminding yourself about the concept of surrender and that it's okay and that you can be curious. And here's the other thing. You can be curious without committing to a new way of being or a new way of life or a new, path or whatever. So because the other side of it is that the universe is self-correcting. So if you do end up going left when you were supposed to go right, it's like GPS. It'll self-correct. It'll get you back on track. So you don't have to worry about it. And you're never going to lose something that you need. I speak from experience. How many times I've tried to offload stuff that I just didn't want to deal with. Turns out it always came back around. So no matter what you do, if you're like, fuck it, I'm just going to choose, I'm going to be rash and impulsive, go for it. Spirit is going to correct you in whatever way your trajectory needs to be corrected to ensure that you land where you're going to land eventually anyway, right? So you can do it that way. You can allow yourself to be guided. You can experience yourself being told where to go and what to do. But ultimately, no matter what you choose or how you choose, you will eventually end up in the place you're supposed to be. All roads lead to the top of the mountain. And there are an infinite number of ways to get to the top of the mountain. And the only path that really doesn't lead to the top of the mountain is the one where you run around telling all the people to the top of the mountain that their way is wrong. Like that's the longest path is the one where everyone else is wrong. And I even tried that path for a while. So surrender. Let it go. Give in. Allow yourself to be shown. You never know how it's going to arrive. I promise you, you don't. You don't. You have no way of knowing how, when, who, where, what it's going to arrive. That's really none of your business. So when people ask me, when are you going to get there? I don't know. How is it going to happen? I don't know. Who's going to be there? I don't know. That's none of my business. That's Spirit's job. Surrender to that. Mwah. Love you all. Like, share, subscribe. All the information is in the description box below. If you want to make a donation, if you want to sign up for my event coming up, the Pleiadian Light Circle this coming Sunday, my newsletter, booking sessions, all that's in there. Love y'all. Have a happy Wednesday. See you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Bye.